Good evening. Welcome to the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. The time is 5:31. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would like to make a motion to amend tonight's agenda to include an overlooked item that the Board of Selectmen had dealt with in May that we need to deal with here at the Board of Finance in regards to the fuel system that the town utilizes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on amending the agenda to include that item? No. Thank you. The motion passes. And we will...
We have to vote.
Oh, sorry. Threw me off there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
So that'd be letter H.
It'll be aye.
Well,
It's way,
I only have up to G on mine.
it's right, the second page of the agenda, so it'll be
Oh,
right
thanks.
here.
All right.
All right. Next is approval of minutes.
Okay. I'd like to move to approve the minutes from the April 29th, 2024 public hearing meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Any corrections? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries 600.
I'd like to move to approve the special meeting minutes of April 29th, 2024.
For the
Second, aye.
Any discussion, corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Motion carries 600.
Okay, move to approve the regular meeting minutes of May 8th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries 600.
Move to approve the special meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Carries 600.
Make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of May 30th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries 600. On to delegations, where any member of the public can address something that is on our agenda tonight. Seeing no members of the public here, I guess we're all set there. So we will move on to reports. We have our first selectman, Mr. Cunningham.
Got him fixed?
I believe this is working, yeah, okay. Good evening, Dan Cunningham, First Selectman. I want to start off by, first of all, everybody's certainly aware of the events of last week regarding the Chief of Police, and I want to assure the board that all procedures and appropriate standards will be followed by the Board of Selectmen, Town Management, as we move through the situation and eventually hopefully get to closure. Some of the things that have already been done to ensure public safety is we've appointed Mike Masek. He's been appointed the interim Chief of Police. That was done by the Police Commission and jointly with me. We both signed a letter appointing him as Chief of Police. Julie Wilson, who was the Deputy Emergency Management Director, she's been appointed as interim Emergency Management Director. And so both of them have willingly stepped up to these added responsibilities, and as far as I can see, they're really taking necessary actions and controls. Of course, chief of my responsibility as first selectman is the safety of town residents and the well-being of our town employees. And I take that responsibility very seriously. So these interim appointments are consistent with keeping things safe, keeping a status quo as we move forward. One of the things we had to do was, of course, the Chief Finkelstein had a police cruiser that was, his the one that he used daily, and as for his personal use as well. So we did. He's returned that to the police department. That's under our control. It's secured, and we have provided him with a non-town vehicle. I mean, the town is paying for it, but it's not. Doesn't have any signage on it that indicates it's a town vehicle. So during the pendency and resolution of these matters, he'll have that vehicle available to him. I want the board to be aware of there are financial concerns as we move through this. We're not quite sure what our exposure will be as far as taking care of the problems as we move through it. But we will appraise the board as we can identify what our exposure is in various aspects of this matter. The most important thing is I want you to know and the public to know that things are under control in the town is safe, and we will move forward and make sure that we get to a good resolution of this situation. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that on the Board of Selectmen agenda for next week is we're going to take action on the firefighters contract. Hopefully, I'll have some good news after that meeting, but we are going to take action, or at least it'll be on the agenda, and hopefully we'll take action. So that would be a great achievement if we can resolve the firefighters union contract. So I'm very hopeful and encouraged. I think that's a big achievement for both sides to have that done. Finally, I would say as we get through these we've got the budget and taken care of, hopefully, and the next thing I want to turn my attention to, and I want to bring this board into it, is the Dominion building on Main Street. That's next on my agenda for things to work through, and I'm going to schedule a meeting with Susan Adams at Dominion. I want to, start the discussion with her about what we can do and can't do with that building. There certainly are going to be, whether we take title to it or we don't, there will be financial implications to the town of East Lyme. There's opportunities here and there are risks. And so the sooner that I can start to assess both of those so I can present to you the pros and cons, I will bring you into that discussion and keep you apprised of where we're going. I want to take the temperature of what this board feels about that building. I also want to get a sense of what people in town think, and it's going to take me a while to assess and get that information. I certainly, Nyack Main Street, they certainly have a position on it, but we have to look at all sides and see what is best for the town, because ultimately that's what is best, what serves the public in East Lyme. So I'm going to let you know I'm starting to focus on that. I'm going to be looking for input from the Board of Finance, and I'll be asking for your comments and concerns and suggestions. So that's my report for tonight. Unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Does anyone have anything?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Next on the agenda is our finance director with his report.
All right. So I did not do a doesn't sound usually its loud self. So I did not do a presentation tonight. We're just going to go through some of the numbers in the 2022 financial statements, if we want, starting with the fund balance projection. the sheet handed out earlier. So when everyone has that, it's one page. That one right there, yep. It's got a little dark ink on it. I passed it out solo. Yep, Rich has it right here. John has it. Paul, did you find yours? If not, I can give you my copy.
I'm fine.
Okay, so we can see, so these are, these financial statements right now are with the National Technical Review Team at CLA, our auditors. We're hoping to have it out by the end of this week, in 2 days, if not early next week. So if we flip to page, here, it's 13? 15, but it's not really 15, it's probably the second or third page in the draft financials. We can see the governmental balance sheet that breaks out some of the things that make up the governmental funds. So we can see, it says page 15 at the bottom, for those following. All the way to the column to the left is, that's the general fund. That's our bread and butter. That's the budget we do every year. So we can see if we go right to the bottom, the fund balance, there's 3 lines. We have committed, assigned, and unassigned. And based on our fund balance policy, we are using the assigned and unassigned. So if we add those two together, we get our $15,222,464. We're not including the committed, because that's not part of the fund balance equation. So we ended fiscal year 22 with 15.2 million, or roughly 19.5% fund balance. But you can see going forward, year after year, as we use fund balance to plug the budget, we are reducing that greatly. So in 2023, we used 1.3 million of that fund balance. We dropped fund balance from 19.5 to 15%. Following year, the year we're currently in, it's going to be under 14%, and then next year with $1 million, it's going to be about 12.5%. So while this, 2022 is good, we have since, every year we're kind of using the fund balance to plug revenues. So, does anyone have any questions? So, the audit, hopefully we get the audit firm in here in the July meeting, if not the July meeting, the August meeting, to go through and have the audit presentation for you guys. So, I think that'd be great.
And then where are we with 2023?
The day we file 2022, we start on our 2023 audit. Our external accountant's already in the finance office, balancing, working on the capital project funds, reconciling the smaller funds to the grant funds. So we're about a month and a half into that process. So I think we'll be in good footing to kick off 2023. Rich?
Just a question for a little bit more awareness. Is there a way to account for the increase in budgets from 2022 through the projection for 2025 and the impact that just the increase in budget would have on the fund balance percentage?
So I could leave the fund balance the same, and so instead of it going from, the 11.8 million, I could just leave it at that 15.
Right.
And then we could just see what that does. I could run that, after the meeting.
Yeah, I think that could be educational, because
Just show-
to just show that the budget increase will also decrease our
Correct.
percentage of fund balance.
Yep, as our general fund grows in size, that shrinks the impact of the cash we have in our fund balance.
The other thing that I think would be interesting is how much of the increase in the total budget is just related to salaries and benefits. Because I think of, this rainy day fund as something to address a lot of, big issues that we have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, would we get comfortable with 12% when the impact on the increase in the budget is all salary, I just think it's sort of a conversation. Is the risk factor from salaries and benefits versus, if we had a hurricane, like,
Are they the same risk?
right.
Are we weighing them the same, essentially?
Yes. Just a thought,
Okay. Yeah, I don't have,
not a question.
hasn't been on my,
someone has
hasn't been on my radar, really, but that's a very good point.
A supplementary to that would be increase in headcount through the years that impact the salary total.
So in our offering statement that we put out for the bond, that has the number of employees over the last decade. So that's easy. That number is easy to grab. So between the two of those, I think we can work out some sort of formula or calculation or something to kind of give us a better view of that. Yeah, we can work on something like that. Anyone have any other questions with the financial statements and the
You said
fund balance?
they'll be in what, probably next month or the month after to present this to us?
Correct.
The final, and then it'll get filed with the state?
It should be filed within this week, latest
Okay,
next
do we have
week.
to? But don't we have to either accept it or acknowledge it as a board before it gets
So,
issued?
once they give me that final copy, I'll be calling for a special meeting. I'll
Okay.
give you a copy of it, but yeah, we'd like this finalized ASAP.
Okay. Does that include the 2 single audits as well, or are they?
Federal and
both-
state should, yes,
Okay.
yep. So. And our new, I don't know, so Ron Nossick retired, now we have Nicoletta McTigue, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. So, they've been great to work with, so just a matter of getting this across the finish line, starting on 23.
Great, thank you. I know the whole audit process has been something that has been troublesome for a number of years, and I feel like this will finally get us to a good spot.
Well, so one of the things, when Nicoletta comes and speaks, she'll talk about is some of the out-of-scope work that was done and the prior period adjustments that had to be made to kind of reconcile to the numbers we have in our financials. That's been a big piece of this. And so, she can speak more to that, and she has a spreadsheet I asked her to create to show all the prior period adjustments that we've done. I think it totals $18 or $19 million. It's pretty substantial. So, and there were some extra fees, obviously, that includes that we'll have to, approve. So just something to keep on our radars. So as we move forward, we're kind of cleaning up these financials, and adding more schedules. So in the 23 audit that we're coming out with, where we're going to dive into in a week or so, I'd like to add changes in fund balance policy for the grant fund and the 3-4 capital project funds we have, so we can tie out the available budgets for projects to those funds' fund balances, if that makes sense. Right, so if the capital non-recurring, which is our cash capital, say it's got $1 million of fund balance, it should have less than $1 million of approved budgets, right? That's not always the case in all these funds. So one of the discussions we'll have is going through fund by fund to say, okay, what's above water and what's below water, and how do we fix the below water funds? So that'll be our discussion after that comes out. So, and you can just look really, if you that same page I showed you, if you look at the other funds, those are the major funds, but you can just kind of go down the list. Sewer assessment fund, all these funds, have a positive fund balance, except you see capital non-recurring, $487,000 in the hole. So that's what our external accountant is working on right now, to actually say, okay, are we actually $500,000 in the hole there? What's the story?
Mhm.
So now we're working on the narrative part of this, and kind of digging into the weeds now that we've got that we're getting that financial statement out the door. So, if no one has any other anything to say about the financials, I can talk about some other things we're working on. Everyone go with the financials? All right, so Munis is about 2 weeks out from implementing across town for accounts payable, accounts receivable, and everything except human resources and payroll. So next week and the week after, we'll be training the 60 users across town on the new accounting system. And that's really being spearheaded by Mitch Nixon, my deputy finance director. Thank God we have that deputy finance director. And once we, and I just had a conversation with him, once we roll out Munis in January, we'll be fully rolled out with everything general fund related And then July of next year, we'll roll out utility billing and water and sewer as well. Once that we get to that point, we discussed going for our purchasing agent certificates together, but that's, you know, down the road here a little bit. I'm trying to think what else we're working on in the finance office. Munis, year end, and just plugging right along here. So this was the first meeting where the materials have been published on the website, be it same day, I know. Next week will be a month ahead of time. My AP clerk is really getting caught up to speed. She put these packets together. Shout out to Denise Compton, our AP clerk, who's also the kind of Board of Finance organizer for some of these agendas and things like that. So as she picks up more speed, these are going to be quicker coming out the door. So our next step, tomorrow we'll be publishing budget versus actuals, projected balance sheets, and we'll have that on the same tab on the Board of Finance or Finance page where the agendas, minutes, materials are. There's also a budgets tab now for reports. So we'll have all the reporting online. So everyone, if anyone has any questions, if they want to ask how's the town doing, all these will be on the website. We already started with the pension. A lot of the investment policies, all of our pension reports are all on the website. So if anyone ever has a question on how our pension is doing, all that is now on the website. So we're just trying to make things more transparent, post all these reports online, and give everyone more data. So.
Great.
So Kevin, with that posting online, are you able to collect metrics as to how much that's used by the public?
Maybe IT could run us a report. I'm not quite sure. Once I put it on the website, you know, that's I've passed the buck. So
Because I think it'd be important to, one, make the public really aware
Yeah.
that the information's there, and then also see how much it's used.
yeah, just because it's there doesn't mean anyone's looking at it.
Because we might have more engagement from the public if they're aware of that.
Yeah. So that's all I had that's not already on this agenda. So with that.
Anything else for Kevin? No? All right, thank you.
Oh, I did have one other thing. Just as an aside, not aside, but the McCook's bathroom was vandalized. If you remember, we discussed that a month ago, I believe. We originally set aside about $5,000. The partitions came in at $6,000. It's going to be about $1,000 to install them, so we're looking at about $6,800. So we've applied to our insurance company because it's over our threshold of $5,000. So just want to let you know it is going over that $5,000, but hopefully we're going to get reimbursed from insurance.
And from the parents, hopefully.
Well, that was the initial thing, but I guess we can't just ask them for the money, so they had to be charged, I believe. And then it's got to go through the courts, and then, so there's that. Oh, and then the other thing, sorry, they just keep popping up in my head. If you remember, 2 years ago now at this point, the town suffered from fraudulent checks out of the finance office. That woman was charged, and she was ordered to restitute us, or pay us back in $100 increments. So they I think $73,000 of the $100,000 has to be repaid at $100 every time she sees her parole officer or whatever that gentleman is. So $1,200 a year. Next 60 years we'll pay that off. So
How old is she?
I don't know. But so just wanted to keep the board informed. We are ordered restitution back, but $100 a clip. So it may take 6 years.
All right, thank you. So moving on to new business, the first item was the draft fiscal year 2022 financial statements. I think we've just covered that. So it was going to be discussion only. We've discussed it. And as noted, once we get the finalized, we'll maybe arrange another Zoom to take care of that. Next is the review and approval of departmental transfers. I referred to this meeting as kind of, a housekeeping meeting. We've got a lot of things that we have to do from a legal standpoint to deal with the end of the year and kind of taking care of a lot of that stuff. So we have in our packet a list of departmental transfers and amendments. And there's a lot of them. A lot of them could be for small amounts, $200, some $40,000, but altogether they total $460,923.31. Kevin, do you have anything more you want to say about?
Yeah, so these transfers, most of these are run-of-the-mill. Some of the, when I say run-of-the-mill, they're transfers, we're moving $225 from, an office supply line into inspections because a vehicle costs more to get inspected. There's other ones that are more robust. We moved $19,000 from town contingency, payroll contingency, to fund the curator at Brookside Farm. Now, when First Selectman Siri was here, when we were doing the budget last year, the Brookside Farm Museum put in $25,000 for a curator. The first question was, do you have a curator yet? No, we don't. We cut it back to $4,000, I think it was. And we said, well, when you hire somebody, we'll put the money back in. The next day they hired somebody. And so there's that 19.5. So we have to cover, and she's doing a great job over there. She's brought in some of those grants. You've seen that $15,000 grant, so she's, paying for herself over there and then some. Some other ones, the other big ticket items here, seasonal, the 5,000. There's a $5,000 line there. Seasonal labor at Park and Rec. That's to help out mow the grass, keep the fields, maintain the parks. Last year we spent a little more than we would have liked of the part-time seasonal budget. So if you think about the budget 7/1 to October, November, they're doing field work. Well, in the springtime, they fire up April, May, and they've got to get through June 30. So there's really two tranches. So the fiscal year they have to keep some aside to cover the last couple months of the fiscal year. We spent a little. We kept a guy on for a couple extra weeks to clean things up for the fall. Dan and I knew about that in the first budget meeting, because we have quarterly budget meetings. A big one you'll see here, contingency transfer to cover audits, right? If you think about it, we're in fiscal year 24. We're working on fiscal 22's audit. Well, earlier this year, we got done with 21, right? So we're paying for 22's audit. Now we're starting 23. So there's more than 1 year's worth of an audit we're paying for. And then let's keep going down the list. Audit services, cover legal bills. So last year, it did not occur to us when we were making the budget. We were in the middle of charter revision, and that comes at a cost. So really, the legal services line just kind of absorbed the additional charter revision costs. So now we have to cover some overages there. So we're looking to move about $10,000, $89.95 out of retirement liability, which has access. And then what other ones we want to talk about? Does anyone have any questions? Anything that pokes out at them?
Yeah, I have two questions.
Yes?
I noticed that there is a second audit fee down near the bottom, about 5 or 6 up from the bottom of the first page. Why are there 2 audit fees?
So as those bills came in and we depleted the money in the account, I had to keep paying these bills or they would stop doing work. So
Okay.
You'll notice there's more than that. If you go to the very bottom, just 2 days ago, I got that $15,000 bill for out-of-scope services for the audit. That was the list of the out-of-scope services we were talking about. They won't issue that audit until all their bills are paid. So, and we really need that audit. So that's why we're doing these transfers. So
Okay.
what was your second question?
I noticed a lot of the money for these transfers are coming out of the retirement liability area.
Correct.
Is that because our investments have done well and we don't need as much, or?
No, so the retirement liability is an account we set aside for non-affiliated and some other unions. When people retire, they get paid out. When I mean they get paid out, you get paid out for your accruals, you get paid out for a certain amount of your sick time, you get paid out for your vacation, and then if you have comp time and some other things, right? But some of these individuals that have been with the town for 30, 40 years, their payout is upwards of $100,000. Okay, so I think that line had 225 in it, 200, right around the 200 mark. I believe we had 1 or 2 police officers retire that had to get, a slight payout, but we haven't lost, I don't believe, any unaffiliateds that I can think of off the top of my head. So that account was in pretty good shape. Before we hit contingency, I rather hit a retirement liability account in the it's in 114, so it's in like the general government section. I think it looks better to hit a non-contingency account. I think contingency should be hit last resort. So I really don't like to hit contingency unless it's truly like, okay, you'll see if it says town PR contingency, that's payroll. I don't consider that the town's contingency. So the only one to hit contingency, I believe, if I'm mistaken, is that bottom one. Oh, there's 2 audit services that covered it. So I moved one for 12,225, and then I moved one for the one down below the 15 just from the other day.
So all the ones that say retirement liability have nothing to do with the actual retirement fund?
Yep,
for
correct. That's an
employees.
account that we budget for to pay. It should really be called like retirement severance or retirement payout or something like that. Because liability assumes a balance sheet account. And that's not accurate.
And it's one of the reasons why, I would love to see these contracts, change that when you leave, getting 100 sick days paid out type of thing. Because, we have no ability to really figure out what who might retire this year. And so, you try to look and say, oh, how many are, getting up there, and then you've got to set aside 400, 500,000, and then they don't retire, but it's a really hard thing to budget for.
As part of our budget review, in the budget process, I did a calculation of some of our senior officials, if you say, they've been here a while, that hit between their age and years of service, they hit over 80 years old or 80 years of whatever you want to service. Those people kind of have a higher propensity to retire than someone who's been here for 2 years and 32 years old. Because my number of service is 34 right now. I only have 46 more to go. But things like that. So all those individuals, and I kind of have a little factoring system, like, okay, this person's this age, they've been here this long. We'll say they have a 15% chance of retiring, and so the whole spreadsheet was, the millions of dollars for retirement liability, and I think we budgeted $250. So some years it's closer than others. Like this year, even though no one retired, we're still paying out 2 employees who are non-affiliated, who are here, retired. Their payout is broken up into 2 or 3 years because of the size of it and the non-affiliated agreement. So instead of getting all in one lump sum, it was able to be spread out, and that kind of saved the retirement liability line. It just pushes the expenses in the future years. So.
I presume this is probably just output from your finance software rather than an Excel spreadsheet.
This is Mr. Mitchell Nixon, my deputy finance director. He takes so how this spreadsheet works. Everyone fills out a budget transfer form. It's a single document, so for every one line you see across here, there's a form in the finance office that's signed off and approved. He took all those forms and compiled them into this list.
Okay.
So there's not much automation here.
Okay, so this is a true spreadsheet.
This is true manual entry.
Okay, so that raises a point that I'd like to raise.
Okay.
Is if you could have some of the columns or all of them be sortable, And that way we could see trends of which departments are kind of utilizing this end-of-year transfer more than others.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe help them with their budgeting going forward.
Mhm.
So there wouldn't have to be as many transfers.
Great, I like that. So at Munis, when we go to Munis in 2 weeks, Munis has budget transfer reports we can print, and it'll be a little more robust. So we might be able to even make it more easily sortable.
Yeah, because if it's in a spreadsheet, you can easily just
Oh, yeah.
denote the column to be sortable.
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
I'll send this in Excel going forward when we do this. If this is the route we take for transfers, I'll just send this in Excel and so you guys can sort it, play with the data.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
John?
On the front page, there's 3 line items for trading supplies that funds were transferred into over a period of 2 months. So my question is, why were there 3 separate transfers within 60 days into the same account? Training supplies, one on 10/5, one on 11/9, and then on 1/5. 180.
I see him. Yeah, well, I'm just happy they're all going the same direction. Because nothing makes me more upset than transfer this way, then we transfer it back that way.
Yeah.
So it appears to me just at a high level, I'm not really too privy with those. But it looks like we're transferring money out of training payroll and using it for supplies for training. So besides that, I can't really speak to, that's the police department.
Right.
So maybe they had to buy more, you know, that's the line, they also buy tasers and all their equipment. I know they did have one more police officer turnover, I think, than they were anticipating. So maybe there was extra costs related to, you know, the equipment upfitting of the officer. That's the only thing I could really think of. That can answer your
Yes.
question, John?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Instead of one transfer, I see what you're saying, instead of just doing one transfer.
Yeah, this had 3.
Yeah, it might have been, you know, like, okay, all we need is this, and then something else happened, okay,
Yeah.
let's hit it again, kind of thing.
It makes sense.
Any other questions, comments? No? Would you like to?
Move to approve the departmental transfers as outlined on the departmental 2024 budget transfers spreadsheet.
Do I have
Second.
a Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 600. Okay. Next on the agenda is an ARPA funds appropriation.
I do have verbiage, because the action item. No, so we had to change it slightly, just because it doesn't have an amount there. See at the bottom, there's no amount.
Mhm. Okay, and I think John's going to take that, so,
Are we doing that?
It's just the motion, instead of reading that whole thing down below, it can be shortened, in one sentence.
and did you want to discuss it first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to
Make-
make the motion, or do you want to do it?
You want me to do it
John,
now?
go ahead and make the motion. That sounds
Okay.
good.
Motion to approve a special appropriation of $120,000 from remaining ARPA funds to a new account to be named by Parks Improvements.
Perfect.
Second.
Okay. And
Thank you, John.
Kevin will discuss.
All right, so this is all coming out of one, so you actually have a budget versus actual for ARPA, if we want to talk about that real quick, just so you know, a quick little ARPA update. There's a couple projects on here for ARPA. So everyone have their ARPA sheet? Right, so just on the front page here, if we go down below, 707 is the account number. It says Park and Rec restroom enhancements at Park. Does everyone see that there? All right, you can see if you go all the way to the right, it has a remaining balance of $121,546.27. We're hoping to take $120,000. We're going to close $120,000 out of that project and move that, pending your approval, into this various park improvements. All right, and if you remember during the budget discussions this year, that $125,000, I can't remember if it was Dan or the Board of Selectmen or maybe the Board of Finance. I don't know which step along the way. Park and Rec, Jerry came to me and said, hey, you know, I got a solution. I don't really need to do this work here at the restroom enhancements at the park, but we need field renovations, and there was something else. I can't think of off the top of my head. And so the idea was to cut back on our the capital budget at the time and then just reuse this ARPA money. So we've kind of known about this for a couple months now. Now it's just the act of actually reappropriating it, right? So all the funds, the $120,000 is coming out of that 707 account. So that's why we didn't need to read the action below, because it doesn't pertain really to all those accounts and everything. So that's all I had for the park.
And I can recite, I mean, it was in the letter, but, you know, some of the items, was the field renovations, replacement of grills, picnic tables, other park amenities, repaired, damaged and eroded walking paths, and necessary tasks to bring the parks back up to, you know, the level that people have come to expect.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Rich?
So the original budget from the ARPA grant for that particular enhancement was $165,000.
Correct.
There's approximately $40,000 that was expended. Do you know what that was expended for? Because I remember Jerry saying that the restroom enhancement could be put off. And so you're taking the remainder of that 125K, but where'd the 40K go to?
The 40K was spent on the septic. I believe we put a new septic in at Pretz Park, right, Dan? Not
Yeah.
Cook's Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a new septic system that went in at the big park down by the prison.
Oh, okay.
That's Pretz.
Did
So
they
we
have-
repaired that septic system, and that is giving greater life to the bathrooms that are there. And I
Right.
guess the feeling was that they could get by with that, with the septic repair, would make it at least acceptable.
I think we put a brand
It
new
falls
septic
in
in.
the same category.
Yeah, we put a
so.
brand new septic in there.
Did they have to do something in Hole in the Wall because they kept
They
it open over the
seasoned it.
winter?
They
It used to
put
be
heating in
closed,
there.
so did they winterize it somehow?
I believe it's heated.
Okay, that's what,
Yeah.
probably the cost came,
Yep.
probably in that as well.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So the idea, the original 165 grand, I believe, was the estimate to tie into the septic, the sewer line, right? But I think that was like a couple hundred yards away. And then when actually push came to shove, the 165, I don't believe, was enough to get us that far. So I think the plan was to just redo the septic, put a new septic in. So that's what we did.
Oh, okay.
So that's that one.
Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of the appropriations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? No. Motion carries 600. Next on the agenda is a special appropriation, $19,176.67 for the CNRE for the highway plows.
Okay. Move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $19,176.67 to purchase 2 new highway plows from CNRE line 32-300-400-700-999 and forward to the Board of Finance for approval.
You don't have to say the
Oh,
last part.
Okay, sorry. Strike that.
Yeah. But you do have to
This will
say-
require a town meeting.
Yes. Have a second?
Second.
And discussion.
So the departments sell assets, and the dollars go back into this CNRE reserve account. That was kind of our past practice. I've kind of gotten away from that and said, okay, if we're selling something and the cash is going to the CNRE, we budget for these kind of things, right? So let's buy everything in a budget cycle. Anything off cycle, we should be preparing for, and these monies really should be used to offset cash capital and for needs in the next year. So we sold $50,000 worth of equipment this year. I don't think, I think we should put that into cash capital, leave it collecting interest, and then next year when we say, what do we need for cash capital needs? We need $1 million. Well, all we need is $950 because we have $50,000 sitting in this fund, right? Because we just went through a whole budget cycle. We're a month out from a new budget, and we're appropriating more money. So this meeting is the last really of the CNRE additional appropriations. Rich?
So a question, there are quotes below, but they look like they're just from one vendor. Is
It's a state contract.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that takes care of that.
And that's why the dollar amounts don't quite match, because these are a year old.
Right.
And there's a 5% escalator on the price.
Right.
So that's why it says plus 5% next to it. So, state of Connecticut buys these plows, so we're just jumping on the same contract they do.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. And he lists in his agenda, he has the Sourcewell contract number,
Mhm.
so.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? No. The motion carries 600. Next, another special appropriation.
Okay, that's the water and sewer one. And I'd like to move that we reallocate $187,000 from the Boston Post Road Tank Project, account 857007700711, and $8,000 from the Well 5A WTP Upgrade Project, account number 85700047000004, for a total of $195,000 to be transferred into an account to be created and titled Well 4 and Well 1A/6 PFAS Removal Project to assist in the design, engineering, and procurement of equipment related to the removal of PFAS from East Lyme water source.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Kevin, are you addressing anything more from that?
Yeah, and if, Dan, I can hit the first one if you have anything to add. So really, this is coming out of two budgets, if we want to pull back our handy-dandy ARPA budget versus actual. If we look at account 711, it's about 3 from the bottom. It is 3 from the bottom. It says WS Rico BP Road Water Tank. That's water and sewer, Boston Post Road water tank. That was repainted that lovely blue. Very similar to Jay and Paul's shirt. All right, that amount was actually $750,000. So we were able to close that out. That project is closed. We spent $562,000. So $180,000 roughly of that funds is going to be used for this project. The other part of the project will be well 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, the one up top here, 004, the $1 million. the full encumbrance there for $39,000. There's $3,000 that's not going to be spent in that encumbrance, giving us the $8,000 left, and that makes up the $195,000 between those two projects. So this is again, water and sewer went under budget on some of these projects, and they're looking to reallocate funds that were allocated to them for another major project they need.
And, PFAS is that forever chemical and that we found in.
Yeah, and I can come
Yeah.
Hey, you're better off just coming up here, Dan.
All right.
So who knows if that thing's working?
So I'll put my water and sewer chairman hat on for a moment and address you from that perspective. So, this whole PFAS issue is really a black swan that came out of nowhere. And it's substantial impact on, on the water and sewer budget. And you could be looking at $5 million per well. There's 2 wells that are affected. So it's a big price tag. So this money, I think, will be used for preliminary engineering work, which is necessary so that we can really predict what, the entire project will be to better identify what the true cost will be of the PFAS remediation. We don't know yet what help we might get from the government. There may or may not be, assistance, but in order to get to that point, if there is something that will help us, we have to have the engineering work done. So this is a way to use money that they were very efficient in redoing that tank to sort of hedge our liability on the PFAS remediation. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. I'm certainly not an expert on it, but I may be able to shed some additional light.
While this is, while we're waiting to see what we're going to get from the feds or the state, I just want to make sure it's on the record that the amount of PFAS in those wells is not considered dangerous. Is that true?
So, I don't want to use that terminology, but there are action limits that that the government, requires. If you reach a certain level, then it's actionable. And up till they're just recently changing those standards, and I think they're in place. The newer standards are in place now. So even though before it was below the action level, we certainly are within. We could be within reach of those levels. So it could make us have to take action. But so far we've been proactive on all of it. We got out in front of it as soon as we learned of the problem. We really got out in front of the problem. We let people in town know that there was this issue. We reduced the output of the wells that were suspect, and the water gets diluted. So any water that's coming through your tap is far less than the level that you might see testing it coming right out of the well. So I think things are safe, but we're trying to be prepared for the future and really get a handle on this and get working on it right away rather than waiting for us to be mandated to do it. Let's get out in front of it and be ahead of the other municipalities that may suffer the same experience. That's where we're at. Anything else? And if any question you may have, if I don't have the answer, certainly Ben North downstairs is very, very knowledgeable. I would be able to answer technical questions you may have. Just let me know and I'll forward it.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 600. And we are
Freezer.
up to F.
I'll make a motion to appropriate $5,480.80 to a line to be established at the Capital Non-Recurring Fund, Fund 32, for the purpose of procuring a new freezer at the community center.
Second.
And looks like Kevin's going to.
I volunteered. So the senior center recently sold, or we're getting a new bus in the next week or so. It's coming in. But we sold one of our older buses. We received about $5,600, I believe it was. We have to return $120 back to the state of Connecticut for the agreement with the grant. We keep, if we sell a vehicle or sell the asset, we keep the first $5,000. Anything over that, we have to split. We have to send back 20% to the state of Connecticut. So they get $120, and the rest of it was sitting in our CNRE fund. The other day, Kristen Karamonica, our Commission on Aging director, called over. One of their commercial freezers in their kitchen died. It's $5,000 a fix. What can we do? I said, you just sold the bus for $5,000. Let's use that money. So, so while sometimes, things just happen out of our control, this is kind of a good use of that CNRE money to keep their kitchen up and running over there. And she did get 3 quotes. We went to, I don't know how many are attached, but she did go out into the world and get 3 quotes. I went to Keith's Appliances and a couple others, but I believe the winning bidder was out of Kansas or somewhere far away, and they agreed to ship it for $45. So whether it gets dropped off at the front door or gets delivered inside, it's a different story. But Mr. Benz, keep your phone on.
Yeah, hopefully it's not assembly required.
Yeah. But that's that story.
So this is a replacement, because you said something about repairing it.
Correct. Yeah, no repairs. This is total replacement.
Okay.
Random.
Yep.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 600. Okay. Now we are on to G, special appropriation. I would like to make the motion that resolve that the resolution entitled Resolution Making Appropriations Aggregating $3,735,000 for various public improvements and authorizing the issuance of $3,735,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriations, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose, a copy of which is attached hereto, is hereby adopted and recommended for approval by the legal voters of the town at a town meeting. So I would like to move that said resolution be adopted as introduced, and looking for a second.
I'll second.
So this is part of, the process of after, in the budget process, we approved all of these. And if you see on the second page of the agenda, it lists in the first half all of the items that make up that $3,735,000. Kevin, do you want to add anything to that?
Yep, so the only thing on here that is probably new to everybody is the bond issuance costs. So the first part, the town-wide improvements, the 3.7 we're talking about, has $32,000 of bond issuance costs attached to it. And then if you look down below, on the Board of Ed side, it's $57,500. Together equals $89,500. That's right around where the cost of issuance is going to be. God bless you. $88,000. The last couple bonds that our financial advisor has been, a part of, there hasn't been the premium there, right, to pay off the cost of issuance. So it was their suggestion and bond council's suggestion to add this. So here we are with $89,500 of bond issuance costs.
Any other questions for? Oh. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The motion carries 600. And then the second part of this, I'd like to make the motion that the resolution entitled resolution making appropriations aggregating $7,285,000 for various Board of Education capital improvements and authorizing the issuance of $7,285,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriations, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose, a copy of which is attached hereto, is hereby adopted and recommended for approval by the legal voters of the town at town meeting. So,
I'll second that.
motion has been made and seconded. Second page of the agenda, under H, you see all of the items that make up the $7,285,000, all of which we discussed at town meetings and public hearings.
So-
Anyone?
Just the only thing I'd add, the $4.3 million and the $1 million of the roof replacement projects, those are both eligible for 40% reimbursement from the state of Connecticut. So while we are authorizing the full amount of these projects, that is not the amount we will go out to bond, right? So right now, we're just getting the bond approval for bonding, but when we go to bond next year, the year after, it won't be for that amount. It'll be for much less, pending there's eligible costs.
Mhm.
So.
Okay, any other questions? The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 600. And then we're now down to the item that was added to the agenda at the start of the meeting. And looking for the verbiage that we wanted to use on this one.
Town fuel system.
I believe so. So this is, yeah. So this is the 50,000.
Correct,
for-
we're moving funds out of the regular payroll highway line and then storm overtime line. You see that on the spreadsheet? So we're moving those two into this fuel tank repair line.
Does this require a town meeting?
Does not. It's an interdepartmental transfer.
I'll make a motion to approve a special transfer in the amount of $50,483 as identified in the budget transfer worksheet.
Second?
Jeff?
So, so what this is we have fuel tanks that schools, our fleet, fire department, police department, everyone that has a vehicle, we have fuel tanks, gas and diesel tanks, and it's not, like a just run up there and flip the switch. You have to have a fob, insert the fob into the machine, put the odometer reader in. The problem is this, what we currently have is pretty outdated. It's not cloud-based, it's on an actual computer, so it's got to read the data, send it, through Wi-Fi, and the system, every month, we were dealing with issues with this thing. We didn't have it working for 4 months. All right, it just went online, and that's why this really was spearheaded, like, okay, what can we do to fix the problem? The state of Connecticut contracts, the DOT uses this software. It's the system is called Fuel Master. That's the name of the system. We're going to a cloud-based. All the data will be backed up. We don't have to worry about a computer crashing downstairs in the closet. We don't have to worry about running out of storage, because that's been the issue. There's not enough storage on the archaic machine to store all this data. So for $50,000, they'll replace the pumps. They'll replace all the infrastructure regarding reporting for the fuel, allowing fuel to come out of the tank, and it's within their budget. They're projected to be within they're going to be under budget by $70,000. So this was a great use of the under budget. We don't have to budget a capital project for this $50,000. We can get it done with the funds we have within the budget. So.
Any questions? Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? No. The motion carries 600. On to public discussion. Once again, we have no public. So we'll move on to board comments. Anyone have anything for, any to share, want to share? No? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned.